I don't remember when I first met Bhakti Charu Maharaj. It may have been in 1995 when I was living in Mayapur. I believe he was one of the GBCs for Mayapur at that time. And I'd moved there with the intention of spending the balance of my life in Mayapur. I moved there just a year before in '94. And that's when I first got to meet him and to have some association with him. And I could tell right away that he was a very saintly person. And I felt in his presence, I felt kind of like a water buffalo. You know how intelligent and cultured water buffaloes are? I felt like that when I was in his presence. Because he was just so refined, so intelligent, so devotional, so articulate, refined. It was just, he never had a bad word to say about anybody. And at the time, I was almost the opposite, where it was rare that I had a good word to say about anybody. So I just felt really out of place being with him. But I greatly appreciated his culture and his level of Krishna consciousness. I mean, he considered me to be an older godbrother simply because he came, by Krishna's arrangement, he came later during the Srila Prabhupada's manifest pastimes. But there was no question in my mind that he was more advanced than me. I mean, there's no question. So even though he treated me with respect and deference on that level, it wasn't a mystery to me who was more spiritually advanced. And he got a tremendous amount of association from Srila Prabhupada. I learned a lot about him from one of his early disciples, a young Mataji who was living in Mayapur at that time, Mother Prema Manjari. Some of you know who that is? Yes. A few of you, okay. So I learned a lot about Bhakti Charu Maharaj just hearing from her. And because she was also feeling separation from him at the time, because prior to that time, 1995, she had a lot of personal association with him. And so just by hearing about somebody, by hearing about their qualities, we can gain an appreciation for them. I forget which one of Krishna's principal queens was in the same situation. By hearing about Krishna, her love for him naturally awakened, and she decided, I'm going to marry him, and eventually did. So hearing about the qualities of somebody is very powerful. And it can give us a very good understanding of a person's character. And that's how I got my not first introduction, but a general understanding about Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He wasn't living in Mayapur when I was living there. He was traveling around the world doing a lot of different services. But he would come and visit from time to time, even though, as I said, I think he was a GBC, one of the GBCs for Mayapur. But he didn't spend a lot of time there. I actually got more association with him after I moved back to New Vrindavan in 2010, when between 2010 and the date of his departure, he visited New Vrindavan several times, and I would always go to see him when he would arrive there. And on one occasion, I got my senior godbrother, Varshana Maharaj. He said, let's go and see Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He just came a little while ago. And so the two of us went to see him. He was staying in one of the cabins around one of the lakes in New Vrindavan. Anybody here know Varshana Maharaj? You know who he is? Very few, okay. Bhakti Charu Maharaj considered Varshana Maharaj to be a very exalted devotee. So I encourage you, those of you who don't know about him, to do a little investigation if you have the inclination and time. He's got a website, varshanaswami.com. I mean, he doesn't have one, his disciples and followers set it up for him. But Bhakti Charu Maharaj had a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for Varshana Maharaj. And you know, the two of us went to see Bhakti Charu Maharaj in the cabin that he was staying in, aside one of the lakes in New Vrindavan. And, you know, we just spoke, you know, niceties and exchanged, you know, welcomes like that for a few minutes. And then Bhakti Charu Maharaj immediately started asking us about the renovation of Srila Prabhupada's palace. Because it needed at the time, and it still needs, a tremendous amount of repair and renovations. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj's mood was that as God brothers and God sisters and direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we should take this service on ourselves and not leave the community management with the burden of maintaining and renovating Prabhupada's palace, because it was obvious it was either beyond their scope or beyond their inclination. Beyond their ability or beyond their inclination. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj spoke with us for 20-25 minutes, which was the majority of our time together with him on that topic. So he's always been, in my recollection, a very strong well-wisher of New Vrindavan community. And he would visit there, you know, every few years. He came regularly for some time. I'm sorry, my memory is really bad. I had a brain injury some years back, and it's just been, my memory is just non-existent basically since then. But whenever Bhakti Charu Maharaj would come to the community, I would make it a point to go and see him and spend some time with him if I was able. You know, if there was a situation where he had 10, 30, 100 disciples that also wanted to see him, okay, I will defer because of the nature of the relationship. I know what it's like to want to see your spiritual master and not be able to. So I would sometimes defer like that. But he was always looking after the welfare of the community, New Vrindavan community, and particularly the senior devotees, wanting to know how we were faring, you know, what services we were doing, if the management was listening to us, like this. One time when he came and he was having a discussion with His Holiness Varshana Maharaj, the first question Bhakti Charu Maharaj asked Varshana Maharaj is, are you eating regularly? Are you eating properly? Because Varshana Maharaj is really renounced. He's very austere. I mean, sometimes in my heart, in my mind, it's painful when I see how austere he actually is. And every time he comes over to our house regularly, and twice a month, sometimes twice a week, sometimes twice a month, like that. And he's considered family. My wife is not a disciple she's a disciple of Charan Swami and Varshana Maharaj. She got permission from her spiritual master to take shelter of Varshana Maharaj. And so, anyhow, Varshana Maharaj comes to our house regularly. Oh, I'm sorry. But, anyhow, Bhakti Charu Maharaj was very concerned that Varshana Maharaj was eating properly, eating regularly, that somebody was responsible to make sure that, as a sannyasi, that he got his meals, and the meals were adequate, you know, to his liking, like that, to his needs. So he was always showing his concern about others, about his God brothers, about his God sisters, about his disciples, about his well-wishers, like that. I remember one time on a very recent visit, I'm not clear on the details of this, but a young devotee, I think it was actually a bhakta. Long story short is, do you know what the word totaled means in relation to a car? He got in an accident Maharaj had a limousine at that time, and this young man took the limousine without Bhakti Charu Maharaj's notice. And he was driving like a crazy young man and completely destroyed the vehicle. I mean, destroyed it. Anybody, you've heard about this? A couple of you have. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj was not at all upset. As a matter of fact, he was concerned about the bhakta. Did he get hurt? Is he okay? He didn't care about the car. It was a relatively new limousine, an expensive vehicle. And he saw that the young man was feeling bad. I mean, he had no intention of going out and destroying the car, but he also had no intention when he got the idea of asking for permission. And so Bhakti Charu Maharaj wanted to help this young man. And so he said to him, and I didn't hear the exact words, but, "You please come and travel with me. And just be with me, be my assistant," so that Maharaj wanted to properly train him and demonstrate to him that he wasn't upset, and B, how we should react and respond to seemingly difficult or trying situations like that. And everybody that heard, this happened in New Vrindavan, and everybody who heard about it, first of all, was very disturbed with the young man, and second of all, very, not surprised, but amazed by Bhakti Charu Maharaj's reaction and how he responded to the situation. He gave this young man shelter. Now, I don't know what eventually happened to him. I hope that he is still following Bhakti Charu Maharaj somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know. When we would ask him means Bhakti Charu Maharaj, for advice on a problem. New Vrindavan has had challenges with leadership for a long time. Maharaj wouldn't come out and offer. He wouldn't say, "Oh, you should do this, you should change that." It wasn't like that. But if we came to him and expressed our concern and asked for his advice and guidance, he was happy to give it in most situations. If he felt that, one time I approached him about a godbrother sannyasi, because I was given the responsibility to, I don't know what the correct word is, I was very close to the sannyasi. We had a close relationship. And at one time he had some difficulty with the sadhana, we'll put it that way. And I was requested to, I'm not sure how to phrase it, like monitor his situation. And one time I contacted Bhakti Charu Maharaj and I asked for his help, if he would get involved with this. And he said no. He said, "This particular devotee is senior to me. and I do not want to get involved on that level with a senior godbrother. So he's very humble like this. Oh, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, and I'm sure you know much better than me. But I was just asked to describe some of my interactions with him. So, the general policy was, if we would approach him and say, "Maharaj, we got this situation, or what do you think? How would you deal with it?" He would, more often than not, he would give guidance, he would give advice. And it was greatly appreciated. And he was greatly appreciated. I also miss him deeply and dearly. I looked forward to his association whenever I could get it, which wasn't often, because I didn't leave New Vrindavan very often. My first 20 years there, I joined there. The first temple I lived in 1974, and in 1994 I had moved to Mayapur. And in that 20-year period, I may have visited 5, 6 different temples, something like that. So I didn't get around very much because I was, happy just being there, just serving there and staying there. But whenever I was able to get the association of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, I would seek it out, and but at the same time, not trying to impose myself on him, because he was very gracious, as I'm sure you well know. And that's all that's coming to my memory this evening. I apologize for that. As I mentioned, my memory is not good. Oh, one other thing. I made notes. I forget how. January of 2018. I went to India. I came to India on a holiday yatra, so it's not a yatra, just a pilgrimage. And the first place I went to, my wife's desire, was we went to Jagannath Puri, because there was a yatra that she wanted to attend. And it was held by, I can see his face, I can't remember his name. Damodar Maharaj and Madhavananda Prabhu, disciple of Gauragovinda Maharaj, in Puri. And they had rented an entire ashram because there was a good number of devotees there. And it was very close to the Tota Gopinath temple. Anybody been to the Tota Gopinath temple? Oh, good, most of you. On yatra? You were there on yatra? Okay. And do you know what an epiphany is? Anybody know what an epiphany? It's a spiritual awakening. It's completely internal. And my first Mangal Arti there, I had an epiphany, which I won't get into the details of because these things are generally very personal. And but one of the results of that is that I was inspired to go to the GBC College for Leadership Development. I don't know if you've heard of it. But one of your godbrothers, I forget his name, Rupanuga, lives in Southern California, Indian body, but he's been in America since, I don't know, forever. He is I think a dean in one of the universities there in Southern California, but he's also the dean of the GBC College for Leadership Development. And anyhow, I went through the process of applying, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he spoke with his disciple Rupanuga just to give him character reference about me. And so it was by his recommendation that I was allowed to attend, because when I applied, it was a Friday. I was accepted. Anyhow, it was a very. I applied on a Friday, and the next Thursday it started. I had just gotten back from India the previous, I think, Monday, Tuesday. Anyhow, within a week's time, I was on a plane coming back to India. But it was because of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He knew me, and when he heard from his disciple Rupanuga Prabhu, because I wrote in my application that I know Bhakti Charu Maharaj, then he contacted Maharaj, and Maharaj said, yes. But he also said that because of his age, I don't know if he's going to be able to handle the curricula, because it was quite intense. But somehow or another I did. Anyhow, it's my last note. Thank you very much for inviting me up here. I wish I had some words of inspiration to share with you, but it is what it is, and I said what I've got. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, I'm very blessed to be here, and just a couple of days before this temple was to be inaugurated, I think it was in 2010, no? 2006, okay. So I was here in Ujjain, and I was coming from Dwarka, by car, because I have a friend who arranged, because I was working and he was also working. He's a general manager in BSNL. So we have very little holidays. So we want to make the best of, when I come to India, to just make it quick. So I remember I came with my daughter for admission, to look around for a college for her to do a degree in interior architecture. So I was in India to go to Malaysia. So it was booked and had some contact there. But I came here when the temple was just to be open in a week's time or so, Then I came here from Dwarka. I was with my friend, and it was just I wanted to go to Dwarka, Srinathji temple in what do you call it? Nadwar, or is it Udaipur? Nadwara, in that also, because he has got, telecom people, they have got contacts, all over the place. So I had to do it quick. So I booked a car from Indore. I got my contact in Indore to book a car to wait for me in Ahmedabad. And my friend came from Delhi. So we went, and he arranged. We just drove, pick up the prasad on the way. They make all the arrangements so that, we don't waste time, So the driver knew the way, so I came through that trip, Nadwar, Dwarkadish, and then I came to Ujjain, by car, okay, because I had to give the car back to Indore. So I came to Indore. I remember Maharaj, he was staying somewhere, I don't know where that house is, but somebody who was Maharaj was staying there also, because he was not staying in the temple. This was a construction site. So he made arrangements for us to have prasad. It was a big house, I know, very nice prasad was there. And then he personally took me, and made me visit, the place. And he asked me why don't I stay, for the opening. So I said, I've already made commitment in Malaysia, therefore I have to go, because the admission of my daughter. And so I could not stay, and my work also didn't allow me too much of leave. I was working for telecom in Mauritius. But Maharaj took the trouble, made me visit the temple, and there was at that time, there was these videos, game, the video, game videos. So it was very sort of popular at that time. And Maharaj had some people, he contacted, and they were making a video on Ramayana, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but on one of the, it was on the scripture, take it up, because he thought that, well, this is a good way to, children, they want to play, they want to have games, so let's make this video. And to tell you that how he was always innovative, thinking beyond. That was Maharaj, always thinking out of the box, as they say. He was like this. Has always been like this. So this was one thing which I noted, that, well, this was totally new. And he had people working on this game, video game. They were already working on that, to make this and try to create, a business at the same time, but also to, because he knew that these people children or till today, people are very much caught up in these games, computer games. They are so much caught up. But he looked ahead, he said, okay, how can we use this to preach? He was looking at every means to preach. So that was one of the things which I remember Maharaj did, we can talk. And I also remember that, you have seen like making of the Abhay Charan was really a mammoth task to do that, filming around. And that was in the middle of this filming and all this, because he had to hire equipment. And at the end, not the end, but in between, he bought his own equipment, for the filming. Maharaj did that. He had a studio in Bombay. There was a studio in Bombay. He took me there. I went to visit the studio in Bombay while making of this. I met Babal, is it? Babai, no, from Mayapur. I met him in where was that?
Kolkata.
No, I met him in US. I met him in US. What was that? In California. They were staying in California. I forgot the name now. But he was staying there, and I know that he was the one editing the film, and he was with Gauranga Prabhu from South Africa. Guru Gauranga? Is it? Guru Gauranga, yeah. He's married to a Mauritian girl. So, they were there. So I met them there in San Diego. It was in San Diego. Yeah, because I had some business to do in San Diego. I met them there. I met Maharaj there. And Babai was there. So he was also there in the making of the film. Is something very innovative. He was trying to create a park, an IT park in Indore, right? There was the plan. He was so forward thinking that he had this. And Maharaj, he even, he wanted to use the cruise. And I remember I went on the cruise, starting from England, Southampton, It was a cruise where there were 5-6 Maharaj together who came. I remember there was Radhanath Swami, Sachidananda Swami, there was some more Swamis, some more, I forgot now, but there were maybe 5 or 6 Swamis, at that time. I was quite new and I was still working. I was on duty, I was working, but it was only my association with Maharaj, which I had in Mauritius, that he sort of, because of his kindness, of his highly aristocratic person, Maharaj is in his way of relating, to the scriptures. Like I had, in my place, I had 2 Pandal programs for Maharaj. In Mauritius, yeah. I made Pandal, had some Pandal program. And one of the Pandal program, he came along with Giriraj Swami. Both of them were there at that Pandal program, at my place, at my home. So one of the other program, I remember that the Gopi Geet, first time it was sang, and he made me, photocopies and all this, distribute to all the guests, and, they all accompany Maharaj to sing, Tavakatam, Amritam. So he sang that, and he had such good voice, always very musical, and he would get, we would get the musicians, they will have rehearsal, because he wanted everything first class, and that was his style and his way of looking at things. So I think we are very fortunate to have Guru Maharaj as our, though some of us may not be disciples, but if we are disciples of Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Swami, I think we are very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. I myself am now 73 years, but I got initiated in Ujjain, 2011, and that time he had a seminar on Ramayana in 2011. And everybody was asking, why Bhakti Charu Swami is talking about Ramayana in ISKCON, because it was new. And Bhakti Charu Swami said that, to start with, in that seminar, I remember, he said that people in India cannot connect to Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is philosophy, and to make people, the common people, to connect with Bhagavad Gita is very difficult. But they can connect to Ramayana. Right? So it was, it was on his own. And many people criticize Maharaj, that how come, Maharaj is doing Ramayana, because he is from India and he knows the Indian scene. But most of his god brothers, they are from America or from Europe, and they don't have that background which Maharaj has. So he comes from a different background altogether, and he sees in what way is best for him to preach. And he would look at it and on his own, took the decision. Just like being here and started having Shivratri. I mean, again, Shiv, demigod, we are preaching demigod in Krishna, ISKCON temple. So it is quite an issue, to explain this to others, that how come, we are talking about Lord Shiva doing, how are we for time, Prabhu? What time do we supposed to end here? Huh?
Few minutes.
Few minutes, yeah. So this is, Maharaj is trying, today how many people, they go for Shivratri and they come to the temple. And maybe so many other disciples I've seen, or devotees, or, of Lord Shiv, who come here and have been transformed to Vaishnavas. Right? So he was very innovative, Maharaj, that was it. He was very innovative. And for myself, I was always thinking, that now I am old now, let me take advantage of getting to his retreats. Because soon I will not be able to travel, I will not be able to go to the retreats of Maharaj. Because he decided to make retreats because he could not go to every place and preach, so he gave himself 8-9 days, that you come to a retreat, you have direct, interaction with me, association with me. And for me, I said, this is the best thing, And for me, Maharaj was making retreats outside. I went to one of his retreats outside in South Africa, in Drakensberg. I went there, one of the retreats. But, you go to Drakensberg and if the retreat is over, then nothing more. But here in India, wherever you're going for a retreat, it is all dham. Yeah. And I said, why should I spend my money to go to Australia or wherever, to go for retreats? So for me, I wait for the retreat in India to take maximum advantage of the association with Maharaj. And I must tell you, I've been very, very fortunate on that count. We can talk a lot. I mean, just to, I went to one of the retreats, by cruise, the England one, but then I went to various retreats here. Most of the retreats I was there, of Maharaj here in India, which he organized. And I went to one of the retreats in a cruise to New Caledonia. And it's a place, really very far away on the side of Australia. I was there. And even a place like that, Maharaj went and gave his blessing. There was no temple. There were a few devotees there, but there were yoga society and etc. So these people were the one more French speaking. So we got a translator, and Maharaj, they had a nice program, nice prasad, and everybody was dancing, Maharaj make everybody dance. And though Maharaj at first didn't want to, he says, what to do here? We are wasting time here. But he turned this around and made it really memorable. So I think we'll stop here because time is, maybe some other time, but we can talk a bit more in detail. But to tell you that, and even in Mauritius, I remember he came and told me he wanted to have one of those things which go underwater, that you can go into them, and then you can see the fish and all this in the sea. He wanted to do a business out of that.
Submarine.
Huh? Submarine, yeah, the submarine. Yeah, so he told me, that let's do that, but it didn't materialize. But he was thinking like this. So he was really somebody who thought out of the box. And I think we are very, very fortunate to have, such a guru and such associations, a great soul. So thank you very much, for taking your time to be here and listening to, somebody not really qualified to be sitting here, but, this is the good fortune of the devotees, the disciples, Guru Maharaj himself, the various gurus, in ISKCON who gave me their association and has kept me sort of locked up in ISKCON. Otherwise, I mean, I know Guru Maharaj since the 90s, early 90s, but I got initiated in what? 2011, 20 years, more than 20 years afterwards. He was like a friend to me, but, then it changed into a disciple guru, and it was totally different relationship. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
As Prabhuji focused on very important quality of Guru Maharaj, that he was very innovative and thinking out of the box, and every act or everything he was thinking, he was just finding different ways to preach. And Prabhuji gave some example like IT Park, taking cruise of devotees, and he wanted everything first class. So, and Prabhuji tried to get association of Guru Maharaj by going in retreats. Guru Maharaj himself mentioned that I am going different places but I am not able to go. So I am planning that you all come at one place so that I can give you what I want to give. So,
yeah. And I think I will add that I was thinking that Guru Maharaj is going to be here. Let me take advantage of the retreats because soon I won't be able to go to retreats. But I never in my head thought that Guru Maharaj will depart before me. This was never even thinking. Though we know that, we may not be here, but I was always thinking that soon I will miss, I won't be able to travel to India, but by the mercy of Guru Maharaj, by the mercy of the devotees of Prabhupada, that I've been able to be here. So, thank you, Prabhu. Just I wanted to add.
we want to hear more from you.
Well, okay, I'm going to be.
Prabhuji say all?
I'm going to be here for a month, so it's already a week now. So I think, I would like to have your association and, we can try to share what we have and, look at it maybe from a different perspective because I've been in the corporate world and I've been very fortunate, So I retired somewhere around 2011 itself, so that's...
So you will hear from Prabhuji more about his retreats. That will be a retreat for us from hearing from him.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Mataji,
Mataji want to say something. Hare Krishna.